have to begin with.
What do they call the incident of October 2006?
No impeachment. They call it rascality.
Rascality. This is the Osasu Show.
The program is still this morning on ITV, bringing us to the first discussion segment of the program this morning. And here, as usual, is to take a look on the aviation sector. And of course, you know, the regular, the aviation freak, a man who does it so very well when it comes to aviation programs and events, not only in Nigeria, in so many other parts of the country, especially the Western world. And he also doubles as an estate surveyor and valuer. Ike, a very good morning to you.
Hi, good morning, Joe.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I know you watched the broadcast.
Oh, yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
but I don't know if you agree with the acting president when he said that the challenges didn't come overnight and it will not, and it cannot be resolved overnight. Do you agree with him?
Oh, sure, it's so natural. When things build up over a long period, they seem to have themselves entrenched, deep-rooted, and therefore to uproot them, it takes a while. But you have to have sustained job of uprooting them, not some kind of haphazard activities. You've got to set a goal and then set out to achieve that goal, sustain the pressure, and done. It's the only way. There's no other way.
Now, looking at the aviation sector.
The only way, the filmmaker said, the only way is the hard way. It's got to be done, and the hard way.
Looking at the aviation sector, which of course you pride yourself as a keen watcher and a freak, do you think it requires, you know, almost eternity to fix the problem there?
No, no. Successive governments, you know, haven't shown enough responsible attention to the aviation sector. Aviation sector is one of the most important sectors in our economy. As a matter of fact, the way the world is going, without the aviation sector, any country that is not taking its aviation sector seriously is not ready to develop and is not ready to grow economically. Aviation is, practically speaking, everything, because it puts you on the fast lane. You know, it's not like in the days when people, when they wanted to travel to Europe, spent 2-3 weeks, you know, in the sea, going to Europe. As against, you want to hop across to London right now to get something done. If you have a private jet, in 5.5 hours you're in London, you hold a 2-hour meeting, and then hopping back into the aircraft, in another 5.5 hours, you are back in Abuja in a single day. That would have taken you 2-3 weeks in the past. So, this is just to give you the awesome nature of, you know, what aviation is contributing in our.
So it doesn't require eternity to fix the problem.
No. It just requires having people that have a sense of honor, a sense of responsibility, and knowing fully well that this is a sector that should not be joked with, and who must deploy funds made available to get things done thoroughly and properly. And like I always say to you, we missed it when we allowed Nigeria Airways to go down, and no corporate was held accountable. And so successive individuals saw it as you know, pieces of cakes.
Now, you told our viewers last week that you will go to the airport to find out if the Nigerian aviation has wildlife management.
Yes, I kept that promise. I made a visit. First of all, I went to NCAA, where, you know, I was not initially allowed to pass through the gate.
Why?
And then, you know, that they had instruction that visitors should not enter the compound, and that sent me very wild. And I wondered, in a public office, the visitors should not be let into the compound, and you have no space outside where visitors would park. See, what nonsense is that? And of course, I resisted them, and I said to the security man, go call that officer to say that I shouldn't enter. And of course, I kept my car right in. No one would go in and no one would come out, until the officer came and began to give some flimsy and we have just a few parking spaces for visitors, and this other open space they are all off-limit space, and the rest are left for the cars of workers and all these blah blah blah. Then I pointed out to him in the so-called visitors section, I've got 3 car spaces there.
Empty spaces.
Yes, for cars to be tucked away. So why would your security man, knowing fully well that there's a section meant for visitors, not let me in? Something's wrong. Something's certainly wrong. Of course, the officer eventually, instructed them to let me in, and of course I came in, and I wouldn't see the regional manager who was said to be busy at the airport, and
maybe on supervision.
That's part of his job. That's fine. NCAA is out there to ensure security and ensure that the airplanes will fly in good order before they take to the air. That's fine. I didn't grudge him that, but I couldn't reach him. I couldn't talk to him. I left information. They were going to get back to me to let me know where I could see the man. Up until this moment I'm talking to you, Joe, not a phone call, not a text message, not an email. Even when they have every information about me that should have led them, make an appointment and fix about. This is the sense that we operate our activities in this country that is totally, totally unacceptable. We can't go on this way. Public officers must know that they are servants. As soon as they get it straight into their heads, they will become, more humble, and they will become more serviceable and begin to give service to the people. An individual that is, taking his time to. I know I dole out a lot of information that no one teaches pilots in the aviation school. I dole out information that only serious-minded research fellows can bring out. I know they pick up information from this and use them for the purpose of whatever they do, but they pretend they don't know that Goddy Ike is there. I will always be here until my creator calls me back.
Okay, be that as it may, let's quickly look at what we have today. Bird strike part 2.
Yes. Well, my viewers, if you want to reach me and have any comment you have on the screen right now, all the means you can reach me. Now let's have clip 1 so that we'll get running, because time is usually not our friend in this. Remember last week we dealt with the foundation of bird strike, and then built it up until clip 9, which today, same clip is our clip 1, so that we can run with part 2. Joe, we won't even finish today. It's an awesome topic. Awesome. Here we go.
That is taught by non-pilot.
That's right. Wildlife management in the airport environment. In spite of wildlife managers having many methods of wildlife management, no single method will work in all instances and with all species. There are 2 major categories of wildlife management in the airport environment. 1, non-lethal wildlife management. 2, lethal wildlife management. Joe, when we talk about ways of keeping birds and other animals away from the airport zone without necessarily killing them. And then the lethal one is where you have to terminate their lives in order to keep them out of the way. Okay. Then most effective airfield wildlife management is achieved by integrating multiple non-lethal methods with lethal methods. We're going to see as we move on how habituated birds can be, so that if you use one aspect of, to try to scare them away, they soon get used to that and they're not scared anymore. So we have to have a mix. And that's what we're going to be seeing as we move on.
Now clip 2.
Clip 2, very quickly, please. Right, clip 2, non-lethal wildlife management is continuing now, and we see non-lethal wildlife management can be broken down into A, manipulation, B, exclusion, C, visual, D, auditory, E, tactile, F, chemical repellents, and G, relocation. We're going to be seeing all these one after the other if time permits us, and we'll run through this very quickly. So number A is one that is known as habitat manipulations. Abundance of food attracts wildlife to airports. You get that, Joe? Wildlife managers can therefore remove food resources or make them less desirable. Tough grass is one of the abundant food resources on airports. They are usually planted to reduce runoff, control erosion, absorb jet wash, allow passage of emergency vehicles, and to be aesthetically pleasing to the eyes. If you get around the airport, you will notice what they call the tough grass. That give you this kind of lush, green, appearance around. That's correct. Some animals feed on them and they love them. Even birds come pick at them, and so it attracts some species, and especially those big sort of species, and then they constitute risk to the aviation sector for planes that are landing and taking off. So if we go to clip 3, we'll continue to deal with issues of bird strike. Can I have clip 3, please? Here we go, Joe. We're still dealing with habitat manipulation. It continues on clip 3. Tough grass is, however, preferred food source for species of birds that pose serious risk to aircraft. Okay? It is recommended that they be maintained at a height of between 7 and 14 inches through regular mowing and fertilization. Joe, this regular mowing is so important, and sometimes it really beats my imagination when I have to travel out of our airports and I see very long bushy grasses on both sides of the runway. That is totally unacceptable in the aviation sector. There should be motorized mowers that cut these things down and bring them to levels that are acceptable and that can help us keep away some species of animals and birds. Now, wetlands also attract wildlife around the airport environment. Waterfowls, which have a high potential to damage aircraft, are attracted by wetlands. Wildlife managers must therefore pond runoff. When you mean ponding, it means creating a way that runoffs can go and settle somewhere and stay there as a pond, rather than being on the floor and on the grass that will attract waterfowls. You understand? So that's the recommendation, that wetlands also attract wildlife around the airport environment. Waterfowls, which have a high potential to damage aircraft, are attracted by wetlands. Wildlife managers must therefore pond runoff to make the environment unattractive to waterfowl. I would love you to quickly take me to clip 4. Clip 4, please. Here we go. Non-lethal wildlife management continues with B, which is exclusion. Studies have shown that excluding birds from the airport environment is actually impossible. Did you get that, Joe?
Why is it so?
We're getting to that. Just be patient and listen and see. It is, however, possible to exclude deer and other mammals that constitute a small percentage of wildlife strikes. That even reminds me, Joe, as I was coming out from that visit that was unproductive because I couldn't find anyone to talk to, and and I had to leave the airport. Just as I was stepping out, I had a shark
Really?
I thought I would have gotten that photograph to show my viewers, but this production had been completed before that visit, and maybe in part 3, I'm going to be able to show that.
So what shocked you?
Head of cattle.
Really?
In the airport environment, over 50 of them, milling around, and as a matter of fact, partially blocking the exit.
You mean in Nnamdi Azikiwe Airport?
In Nnamdi Azikiwe Airport. What I saw on that fateful day that went, and that was on Friday, just last Friday, when I went to to see if I could get somebody to talk to me about presence of wildlife management department. No one would point a clear finger to where we have our wildlife management department, and neither would I find.
Does it mean that we don't have?
I wouldn't confirm that, Joe. The point was that no one was ready to speak except if the regional manager had been there to talk to me. And unfortunately, the man was said to be busy inspecting aircraft. I have no issues with that. That was his primary job that he was doing fine. But then I take exception to the fact that I had a firm promise that I was going to be contacted to be given an appointment when I could come back. But up until this moment, not a word from anyone, and that is not very responsible. Now, let's get me back to that.
But I'm really worried with what
Yes.
you saw in the airport, having,
a head of cattle.
Head of cattle.
Yeah.
And according to you, they numbered over 50. What are we doing? Why should we allow, cows in the airport?
The NCAA officials will have to answer that question. Farm officials will have to answer that question. I mean, if anyone is listening in government, if anyone is listening in the villa or wherever anyone is listening, that's got the power to do something, ask questions, find out from the Minister of Aviation, who in turn will find out from his NCAA boss workers and his farm workers why we should have head of cattle milling around in the airport. It won't be surprising that one day we'll find an aircraft touching down at that point that all airplanes are helpless. When you touch down, after you have left your decision height and made up your mind that all is well and you're landing, and suddenly there's a cattle crossing the runway. May that day never come. But if it comes, if it ever comes, Nigerians won't accept any excuse from anyone. May that day never come. But that's what I saw. I'm announcing to my viewers. Now let's move on. 3-meter high fences made of chain link or woven wire with barbed wire outriggers are the most effective. Joe, take a look at that photograph you see there. Can you see a bus tire of an airplane that just touched down? That airplane hit a deer on the runway, and that's what it came up with. Torn apart tire. Thank God that it was all. It didn't happen in Nigeria, by the way. But thank God that it was all these that happened, that it didn't set the airplane ablaze, because if anything had affected the underneath of the wing where you have the fuel tank and a rupture, believe you me, that plane would be engulfed with fire, and I don't know if anybody would have come out from that airplane alive.
Well, it's already in the
However,
airport. I'm sure that most airports have, those fire fighting.
These things happen so fast that before the fire service men will arrive at the scene, remember, on touchdown, because the pilot didn't announce any emergency officers will not be around the runway, really hoping that fire will be might erupt. So before they rally around and jump into their trucks and head towards the runway, aviation fuel is highly inflammable. The most inflammable of all fuel used for for riding all kinds of machines, starting from diesel, petrol, kerosene, and the rest of them. Aviation is the most inflammable of all them all. The Jet A1. And so, if it sparks on, it engulfs everywhere in a second. And so, it wouldn't have been funny. But anyway, let's go to clip 5. Clip 5, please. Now we continue with C, which is the visual repellent of non-lethal wildlife management. Using birds of prey and dogs have been found useful in repelling and harassing airport wildlife posing risk to aircraft. Useful also are effigies and lasers. You know what effigies are when you have to make something that looks like that particular animal and put it out there, or make something that looks like an animal of prey, you know, that would devour the bird if it came close. So when they see them, they think it's a real life animal. Those are the effigies, and then they run away. You know, so those are different, you know, types of ways that you can keep some of these.
But at times they get used to the effigy.
Yes, because they easily habituate. These birds and other animals easily habituate. When they come around and notice that that effigy they are seeing is not taking action and is not doing anything, they get used to that. Oh, this is a friendly one. And then they begin to come back. And soon they're going to discover that it has no life. All right, please, let's continue with clip 5 very quickly. Time is usually our friend. I hope that someday some individual somewhere, some corporate body somewhere will take interest in this program and begin to sponsor so we can get longer time on air. I've always told you, for 10 years running, I can run aviation without repeating any topic. Straight 10 years. It's an awesome, awesome, awesome sector.
Yes, I think it's a point that we really have to see. If you have the intention to sponsor or partner this program, you can really do that. And of course, we usually leave the contact on the screen. You can contact us and be part of this program, irrespective of how little you think that the airtime you can purchase. It will go a long way in advancing the cause of the program.
Because to make it meaningful, Joe, I would need a minimum of 1 hour in order to make each topic meaningful. But let's move on because time is not our friend right now. Let's get that clip 5. Let's run it up very quickly. However, airport wildlife managers must consider the risk of knowingly releasing animals in the airport environment. Effigies of predators and conspecifics, you know what that word means, you know, similar animals, you know, that sort of thing, have been successfully used to disperse vultures. Although also successful, lasers are species specific. As certain species will only react to certain wavelengths of, you know, more so, lasers are known to be ineffective during daylight hours. They become more effective as ambient light levels decrease. That's to say, lasers are more effective in the evenings and in the night, you know. And so you see all the pros and cons of these different types. And that's why initially we talked about mixing non-lethal with lethal in order to have a proper wildlife management in the airport. 6, please. Out of time. Clip 6. Auditory repellents used in both agricultural and aviation contexts. Auditory repellents usually come in form of propane exploders, that's cannons, and then pyrotechnics and bioacoustics. Although easily habituated by wildlife due to its stationary and predictable nature, propane exploders with its more than 130 decibel of sound go a long way in keeping wildlife from airport environment. I hope someone somewhere is listening. I'm sure these things are not available, but if someone will be humble enough to take my counsel, let's begin to build up our aviation sector and get it to world standard. Pyrotechnics utilizing exploding shells or screamers can also scare birds from runways. Birds, however, show various degrees of habituation. You heard that word you know, before, you know, getting used to these things, to pyrotechnics, making it necessary to support their longer effectiveness with lethal means. Can you see that? So because birds will habituate and get used to these things, and then no more fear, they continue to come back even though you have all these things in place.
Yeah,
then you can mix it up.
Pigeons is harmless.
That's correct. So you sometimes need to mix them up with little means of killing them. That we'll deal with when we get to part 3 of this program. So let's run to the next clip, please. Is it clip 7?
Clip 7, yeah.
Clip 7.
Yes.
Auditory repellents continue. Relying on animals' evolutionary danger response, bioacoustics or predator calls can be used to frighten wildlife away from runways and airport environment. But as birds may quickly become habituated to bioacoustics, this should not be a primary way of keeping birds out of the airport environments. Now take a look at those photographs. That is a fan of a jet engine. See what the bird strike did to it. Look at the one on the left, for instance. Can you see the cascading effect? How the fans got really shattered and scattered all over the place. That was an airplane that was hit by a bird strike that came home with that, with that engine. It's the same you see on the right photograph. Now, clip 8, please, very quickly. Clip 8, quickly, please. Yeah. Tactile repellents. This involves using sharpened spikes to deter perching and loafing by big and small birds. When you say tactile, it's simply well, we don't even have our perimeter fence in the first place, so we have a lot of issues to deal with in order to get some of these installations in place. Look at that panel on an airplane. You see that hole poked there. It was a bird strike that did that job. So they are quite dangerous, very dangerous. Clip 9, please. Clip 9. Chemical repellents. There are 2 major chemical repellents that can effectively keep birds away. A, methyl anthranilate, and B, anthraquinone. Those are 2 chemicals that can be used to keep birds away. Methyl anthranilate is most effective for transient populations of birds, as it produces immediate unpleasant sensation that is reflexive and therefore cannot be learned by birds. Beautiful chemical. You got that description there.
Yes,
Unfortunately,
yes.
time is pressing me hard. I would have loved to give graphic explanation on some of the terminologies and words that my viewers are looking at. But it's unfortunate. We need to buy more airtime. We need sponsors, and so we can do better job of this. As a secondary chemical repellent, anthraquinone has a laxative effect that is not instantaneous. This makes it most effective on resident populations of wildlife that we have time to learn an adverse response. You see, we talk about transient birds, birds that are not always there. They come and move on. And then ones. So a combination of methyl anthranilate and anthraquinone will take care of both groups. That are moving on,
and those that are residing,
and those that are resident. So what's the next clip now? Is it 8 or 9? Next clip, please. Clip 9. Yes, location. Clip 10. Relocation. Remember, we've been dealing with non-lethal wildlife management. We haven't gotten into lethal yet. That will come in part 3 and final part of this awesome and huge topic, which is bird strike. Now, relocation. Although fraught with animal mortality and legal issues in highly regulated environments such as the United States of America, capture and relocation of raptors, those big birds that look like hawks, and it's a family of hawks. That's why they want to call raptors. Very powerful, big birds. And golden eagles are considered better than leader control methods. Can you get that? All right. So, studies in the United States of America show that return rate of these hawks is only 6%. That's very, very good, isn't it? That means if you move away, if you capture and move away about 100 birds, studies have shown that only about 6 of them
We'll come back.
will return. Awesome, isn't it?
Beautiful.
Awesome. Very well. So, here we are. Joe, if you have questions to ask.
Now, quickly,
yes.
quickly, in the issue of tackling bird strike,
Yeah.
you know, responsible government, of course, would do that just like our own aviation is doing. We know that.
You mean your aviation freak?
Yes. No.
Okay.
No. I mean, the aviation sector.
Okay.
Is doing to ensure that there is wildlife management. It's just unfortunate that you went to the airport and nobody wants to talk to you. I was told from very reliable source that there is wildlife management in Katsina State Airport. I mean, Katsina Airport. So we, of course, need to know the type we have, if it conforms with, you know, the one that's latest.
Joe, I'm giving my whole life to this research, even as a licensed estate surveyor and valuer who should have been a pilot, but for my father, who experienced the first crash in this country in the 60s, in the early 60s. Joe, I don't mind spending my hard-earned money to fly to, now that I'm getting this piece of information from you, to fly to Katsina Airport and take a look and ask questions and find out what's in place and give my humble counsel and advice how we can do it better. We should never wait until we lose human lives to animals and birds before we get serious. We should be proactive and not reactive. It's a better way to govern when you are proactive.
Like precaution.
Do what you have to do to stay out of trouble rather than wait and get into trouble and begin to find solutions. And so that will be my counsel, Mr. Aviation Minister, with all due respect. I am doing this program, I am having fun, sharing my knowledge, and I am spending my man hours getting out all this information and spending my money paying for this airtime. Now, I am saying, I don't ever want any Nigerian to die in air crash of any sort. I always say, airplanes are very faithful machines, like you well know, you were a pilot yourself. Everything is there for you to move. If an equipment goes bad, you have redundancy, you switch to another. That's how awesome and faithful airplanes are. But the reason airplanes, in my opinion, fall out of the sky is that human operators are sometimes irresponsible, sometimes dishonest, and most times unfaithful.
Okay, we must thank you for coming on the show. We hope that the non-leather means we talk about, of course, will be one of those things that those in authority will begin to look if the ones they have is really working. If they don't have at all, they need to have those legal means replaced. That is the much we have on this segment. We'll take a quick break. Don't forget, it has been with Mr. Aviation Freak, Goddy Ike, who also doubles as a licensed estate surveyor and valuer. Once again, thanks for coming on the show.
Oh, thank you very much, my viewers. Stay on next Monday for part 3 and final part of Best Strike. And that day, if I find time, I'm going to give you a list of all accidents that have taken lives around the world by Best Strike.
So we'll take a quick break. When we return, the program this morning on ITV continues.
Angel looking for someone to be with. Do you regularly hold industry-leading religious